Ecclesiastes chapter 7, our third and final part. We'll get 23 to 29 done here. All these I have proved by wisdom. So we just covered a few things over the last couple days. I said I will be wise, but it was far from me. As for that which is far off and exceedingly deep, who can find it out? I applied my heart to know, to search and to seek out wisdom and the reason of things, to know the wickedness of folly, even of foolishness and madness. And I find more bitter than death the woman whose heart is snares and nets, whose hands are fetters. He who pleases God shall escape from her, but a sinner shall be trapped by her. Point being is I'm trying to make sure the last three verses, whether they need to be included or not, but he searched out a lot of things. In short, he searched out everything and all wickedness and all folly. And interestingly, it seems like the peak and pinnacle of all foolishness, wickedness, and folly is a woman whose heart is snares and nets. So this would take us a lot of Proverbs 5, 6, 7, also written by Solomon. And he just talks about, the lips of an immoral woman, they drip honey. They're smoother than oil, but in the end, she is as bitter as wormwood and sharp as a two-edged sword. Proverbs 5, 3, and 4. And I could have picked anywhere, basically, in that little window, and it talks a lot about the immoral woman. And so he's just saying that there's really nothing quite like sexual immorality. And he's speaking as a man, and perhaps it'd be this, the same and opposite if it was a woman, right? That a man who just uses women. But I do think that when he talks about the worst of all traps, and it's sexual sin. And why sexual sin? Well, I think there's a good reason why. Maybe he's the one who sought out all wisdom. I haven't sought out all wisdom yet, but Solomon did. And he was the wisest man to ever live. So I got to believe the guy knows something or else. But I think one reason why sexual immorality stands apart from all other sins. In the New Testament, we read about how, this is a sin that's against your body. Other sins are without, but sexual immorality is within. And that it's a sin against the temple of the Holy Spirit. And so there's that question. It could either be a question or a statement, I guess, but just that all sins are equal, or are all sins equal? And the answer is always yes and no. Right? Jesse's watching. You've had cool cars, right, Jesse? You're a man who knows a good vehicle when he sees one. Are all cars equal? Well, if you need to go to the grocery store and come home, and all you need is to pick up a money order or a pack of gum, so the size of the vehicle as far as transporting doesn't matter. Are all cars equal if all you need to do is just drive to the end of the road and back? Well, I guess, yeah, all cars drive, right? All cars can transport a person from one place to another. So yeah, all cars are equal. But you can ask any man that, no, not all cars are equal. But that's the thing, all sins are equal. If your question is, will it send you to hell? And the answer is yes. For all have sinned, and the wages of all sin, every sin, is death. So it's the idea of being suspended from heaven above hell by a chain. How many links of the chain do you have to break to no longer be heaven bound? Just one. And which link? Does it matter which link breaks? Was it a big link, a small link? Does it matter? No, it doesn't really matter which link you break. So all prayer is equal. All prayer. Ugh. All sin is equal in that sense, just like all cars are equal if we're only talking about going from A to B. But the Bible does talk about different sins with different levels of severity and different levels of punishment. Now, again, just because you didn't know what you were doing doesn't mean you're innocent, right? So if you broke a law and you got caught, and maybe it was like a significant law. I mean, you're doing your taxes and you made a mistake and you didn't even know about it, right? It doesn't mean that they're just going to forgive you of the clerical error, but if they believe that you really didn't do it on purpose, they might have some leniency with you. Again, it doesn't mean you don't pay, but it might mean you don't pay and do jail time. And so now we look at like sin. In the Old Testament, there was the talk about unintentional sin versus presumptuous sin. This is a big, long, I'm getting back to Solomon's point here. So all this said, backing up, I need to back up quick because otherwise we'll be talking about other things, is that sexual sin is spoken of more severely in the Bible. That it is something bigger and beyond telling a lie. In fact, it's probably beyond stealing, theft, and other things. And Solomon says the most wicked thing is an immoral woman. Well, I think one thing is this, is that there's no right way to steal. You know, you're stealing bread if you're hungry. I mean, you could try, but I mean, really, theft is always theft, right? Blasphemy is always blasphemy. Covetousness is always covetousness. Murder is always murder, I guess. I mean, maybe in war, that's different. That's not murder, but then it's not murder. That's the idea, is that murder is the sin. Killing isn't the sin, it's the murder. But sex was something created by God, right? I mean, it's funny, but it's true. If God had wanted to, we could have had children by an agreement and a handshake, you know? Do you want to have another kid? Sure. We shake hands and then, boom, she's pregnant. No, God chose exactly how it works. And he also decided in which way is it supposed to be properly done. I like the saying I've heard many times that fire in the fireplace is good. Fire in the living room is bad. Same fire. It's just when it's in its proper place, it's good. And when it's not where it belongs, it's very, very bad. And so I think one thing about sexual sin is it's not just the sin, but it's the fact that it's the corruption of something that God intended to be good. God made it, God designed it, God laid out the parameters for it. And so it was a good thing. But when we break that, it's something wrong. And so I also think this is why it's a temptation for so many people, because it is a natural desire, right? You see, we desire to lie because we're sinners. We desire to steal because we have a fallen nature. And yet the desire for sexual relations, that's not sinful. God put that in us. Now, the desire to fulfill it outside of the confines of marriage, that's sinful, and that's the thing. And so, short story long, Ecclesiastes 7:23-26, he's just saying there's the most wicked thing he ran into is a woman. So being a man, Solomon, the most wicked thing was a woman who had a heart with snares and nets, who tried to manipulate and tried to lure him in for sexual sin. And maybe it is, for whatever reason, Solomon puts that as the top of his list, that there's just nothing worse. And maybe it's because it's so hard to resist. Maybe because of this, that, and the other. And look at Solomon, right? He had 1,000 wives and concubines. Now, we still have 3 verses left here. Here is what I have found, says the preacher, adding one thing to the other to find out the reason, which my soul still seeks, but I cannot find. One man among 1,000 I have found. but a woman among all these I have not found. Truly this only I have found, that God made man upright, but they have sought out many schemes. Now, what he's talking about, and again, slightly poetic, his personal experience, but the idea here is one man in 1,000 I found, and I actually wrote a note, the fact that he had 1,700 wives, 300 concubines, plus him. I mean, he's one out of 1,000, you might say. But he's saying that someone who lives justly and right, someone who isn't taken over by sin. And he's just saying a truly righteous person. It's like, well, 1 in 1,000 of men, and I've never even found a righteous woman. That's how he put it. Just the rarity. They've all sought out many schemes. God made man upright, but they have sought out many schemes. That's a good reminder that God did make us upright. God did make us, to be righteous. And that we have turned, each man to his own wicked ways. We have turned astray, not him. So, bumping my little table, almost spilled coffee. Ooh, I got a bonus here. Not mine. House full of girls, though. All right. So that's that. We've still got a few more chapters of Ecclesiastes, and then we'll be into Song of Solomon. So it should be a fun little march here, and who knows where we'll go after that. But all right, you guys have an amazing weekend. Get to church and bring a friend. Why not? All you guys. Make it your goal every week. Just imagine, I'm going to end on this random side note, right, guys? Could you imagine if you love your church and you love seeing it grow, and you believe that your church, because there's people more than my church watching, right? It's not just people from my church, so I can say this. If you love your church and you believe that your church is bringing the good news and that your church will help people grow and your church will be a blessing to people, then you should want to see your church grow. Well, imagine if everyone in the church just made it their goal this year, 2025, to get one new friend coming to church with them. Your church would double in size if everyone did it. That would be amazing. So, is that a hard goal too? As you're thinking about your New Year's resolutions, is that a difficult goal? To bring one person to church? To see one sinner get saved? So, who knows? God bless you guys. Have a great day, and I will see you around.